breaking updates. Very important.
She's also just a spoiled, entitled, narcissistic brat.
But I was basically the only person in the theater. Very few people wanted to see this. Even the little kids who like Disney movies, even they don't seem to be turning up in droves for the movie because the movie is really, really...
Not even Discount Tuesday could save Rachel Zegler from the ultimate Hollywood horror, watching her own film fail in real time while seated in a nearly empty theater. The woke version of Snow White wasn't a complete failure. It faded into obscurity, leaving Zegler, 23, and a few friends who were willing to risk their lives to see the wreckage up close. This was a harsh reality check for an actress who was once heralded as Hollywood's next big thing.
Rachel Zegler is not doing anything to silence all of those reports, rumors, and online chatter that she and Gal Gadot are beefing. Yes, beefing.
Since the box office wasn't giving out any trophies, Zegler's friends probably gave her a bouquet of flowers as a token of sympathy. Rachel appears to have played Snow White, but this film only features rock-bottom kissing. With a disappointing $43 million opening weekend and only $3,500,000 in Thursday previews, Disney's woke Snow White is not only a financial failure, but also a costly one. This catastrophe isn't even comparable to the $95 million debut of The Little Mermaid remake. Not to be overlooked is Dumbo. Indeed, despite having a far smaller budget, Dumbo made nearly the same amount during its opening weekend. Budgets aside, the production of Snow White cost more than $250 million, not including marketing.
That means Snow White is destined to be one of the biggest bombs in Disney history.
Critics are having a field day right now because movie theaters appear to be more empty than before. Photos of audience members appearing utterly alone in their rows and seating charts with hardly any tickets sold are all over social media. Additionally, some people are urging a GoFundMe to help Disney break even because the internet never misses an opportunity to make a joke. An old clip of Zegler reappeared after the Disney remake failed at the box office, and let's just say it did not hold up over time. People would line up to see Rachel Zegler's films, she once boldly said. In the present, the internet is the only thing standing in line, ready to roast her. There were empty theaters all over the nation, critics were quick to point the finger at her, and ticket sales were appalling. According to unnamed but highly connected Disney sources, executives were already uncomfortable with Zegler's unpaid remarks disparaging the original Snow White. However, they remained silent rather than containing her. Then the actual mess appeared. Zegler exuded charm and smiles as she took the stage at Disney's D23 event before departing. When Rachel Zegler concluded her press tour gratitude post with a daring, unexpected political jab that practically exploded across the Disney boardroom, everyone was in complete awe. She transformed what ought to have been a celebration into a full-fledged PR nightmare with just one sentence. Behind the scenes, executives frantically realized that their $270 million remake was more than just a box office failure. Now that it was in the middle of a political storm, they had to devote all of their time to damage control. Jonah Platt enters. Yes, that is Jonah, the son of Mark Platt, Snow White's producer. He had no intention of remaining silent. Jonah let it all out in a now-deleted Instagram comment that sent shockwaves through the gossip circles of Hollywood. Jonah disclosed that his own father had to board an airplane in order to confront Zegler directly, according to Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, and People. It seems that Rachel's political rants were not only foolish, but also hurting the movie as a whole. We referred to this as adult accountability and responsibility, Jonah wrote before outright claiming that her remarks contributed to the film's failure. Not us, but him. The crazy part, Rachel didn't seem interested in playing ball even after Mark Platt made a direct request to tone it down. Even as the backlash increased, the post remained active for days. Gallardo, Rachel's co-star and the real-life Wonder Woman from Disney, began to fall apart in the meantime. As the release date drew closer, their on-screen sisterhood began to show some serious cracks. Despite their initial smiles for the cameras, the 2025 Oscars followed. The two women's awkward stage presentation was conveyed through their body language.
Well, seems like Rachel Zegler's heart is shady. Or perhaps she doesn't give an F. To celebrate the film's release, she took to social media and shared this post with 13 pictures from the making of the movie. A lot of folks that helped bring Snow White to the big screen. Noticeably absent and not included in this carousel of 13 pictures? You guessed it, her co-star Gal Gadot.
Zegler later called GDAU a professional pageant queen in a mysterious comment, and the internet didn't miss a beat. Even Disney insiders acknowledged that the jab felt harsh and contemptuous of Gal, who is renowned for maintaining her composure under duress. While the movie was losing money, all of this drama was taking place. Snow White had already turned into an over-budget nightmare due to reshoots, last-minute edits, and Rachel's incessant opinions that made headlines. However, the US presidential election was the last straw. Rachel Zegler posted something on Instagram that has since become notorious. I hope Trump's followers never experience tranquility.
Spent a whopping $270 million on the film. The studio opted for a small LA premiere, held Saturday in the middle of the day with limited press. Zegler greeted children dressed as Snow White. She was not at Disneyland on Sunday, where Gal Gadot promoted the film, surrounded by children dressed as her character, the Evil Queen.
Oh no. Disney executives reportedly lost it the moment that post was made public. Prior to the movie's release, it was alienating almost half of the US market. So it wasn't just political, according to a studio insider. We were already having problems. That post was the tipping point. In a panic, Mark Platt set up 2 face-to-face meetings with Zegler and begged her to stop voicing her opinions on the internet. In the final days before the release, Rachel consented to allow a social media strategist who was paid by Disney to approve all of her content. Perhaps too little, too late? Fans interpreted Zegler's lengthy, flowery Instagram tribute, in which she called the movie a life-changing experience and gushed about the amazing summers she spent with the world's greatest crew, as pure shade just hours before Snow White hobbled into theaters. One obvious omission. However, the cast dynamics weren't the only aspect of the drama. Disney's choice to cast Rachel, a Latina actress, as Snow White, a character known for having skin as white as snow, started an online feud right away. The casting was criticized by critics, who likened it to the criticism Bailey received for her role as Ariel in The Little Mermaid. However, Rachel gave a forceful clapback when Harley stood up above the commotion. She responded to her detractors in a since-deleted post, basically telling them to shut up. She exacerbated the drama rather than ignoring it, and now, with theaters deserted, a huge loss in revenue, and a legacy marred by scandal, Disney's woke "it's not just a box office failure" Snow White, it serves as a warning to the whole sector. Her position, "I am Snow White indeed," she yelled, "No, I'm not bleaching my skin for the role." The Wall Street Journal claims that she called her detractors losers who were fixated on maintaining the bloodline purity of a cartoon princess, just to add a little more zing. Yes, she actually stated that she ended up dousing the storm with gasoline rather than trying to calm it. In an interview with Andrew Garfield for Variety in 2022, Rachel acknowledged that all of the criticism was making her popular, but she dismissed it as if it were just another day in the life of a misunderstood celebrity.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
The problem is that controversy can occasionally increase a film's level of success. Maybe the crucial term, that magic of Snow White never appeared. Online noise wasn't the only issue. This movie was climbing a steep mountain in stilettos from the very beginning, and Rachel's own words were not helping it. She did more than simply disassociate herself from the original 1937 Snow White in a 2022 interview. She roasted it. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. She said bluntly, "weird," pointing directly at Prince Charming. Disney had already alluded to updating the story, but Zegler's tone gave the impression that it was being completely dismantled, rather than respectfully reimagined. The fans didn't like it. She was called out on the internet for criticizing a film that she was meant to be celebrating. The critics inquired, "If you hate the story that much, why even take the role? It was self-defeating, but wearing a tiara." Peter Dinklage arrived just as the fire was beginning to simmer and immediately reignited it. The Game of Thrones star criticized Disney for what he perceived as a stark contradiction, celebrating a diverse Snow White while still including 7 dwarfs living in a cave, during a 2022 episode of WTF with Mark Moran. In his opinion, Disney was congratulating itself on its progressive stance while continuing to use antiquated tropes. Peter didn't mince words. He claimed that Disney was acting hypocritically and that the entire situation was nonsensical. While some commended him for pointing it out, others contended that he might be hurting chances for actors with dwarfism. The argument was loud and heated, and Disney, yes, they did notice, Disney rushed to control the story the very next day. According to a statement issued by a spokesperson, the dwarfism community had always been consulted, and they were adopting a new strategy with the dwarfs. It turned out that the alternative strategy was substituting random computer-generated imagery creatures that appeared to have been created on a PlayStation 2 for the beloved 7. The criticism of the CGI dwarfs, as soon as they saw the leaked pictures, the ruthless fans flinched. These were not lovable forest companions. They resembled lifeless, rigid extras from a cutscene in a video game. Online comments ranged from perplexity to outright horror, with many pleading with Disney to simply stop. The public witnessed yet another chapter in this ever-expanding disaster, and the focus shifted from how well the movie would do to whether Disney would even bother promoting it. As it happens, not at all. Variety claims that the studio discreetly canceled the entire red carpet rollout. On March 15th, they hosted a low-key pre-party instead of the customary glamorous premiere, which was followed by a trimmed-down screening at the El Capitan Theater in Los Angeles. A lavish event in Leicester Square, London, was downgraded to a hidden castle in northern Spain for the European premiere as well. Yes, it is a real castle, but it is also suspiciously silent. Was it damage control done the old-fashioned way, budget cuts, or a fear of further controversy? Regardless of the cause, it was evident that Disney was attempting to evade the media like a parent discreetly returning a damaged toy. With a $270 million budget and a box office return that couldn't even match Dumbo's, it was confirmed that Snow White was not only a critical failure, but also a financial one as the numbers came in. This was a PR disaster, not just a miss. Snow White has turned into a model for how not to do a live-action remake, complete with casting disputes, CGI blunders, rival co-stars, and political fallout. What began as an opportunity to modernize a classic became a warning that Hollywood will not soon forget. However, what do you believe to be the miscasting of Rachel Zegler? Can this film ever rise above the mountain of controversy it is enmeshed in? And did Disney make a mistake with this one from the beginning? Leave a comment below with your thoughts. For a comprehensive analysis of Disney's most outrageous casting scandal to date, click the video on screen next if you're still itching for more drama. It's worth it, I promise.